My best friend of 15 years, who I made my maid of honor, secretly got married, lied to me about it, and then dropped the news in front of strangers at her engagement party. Now I feel like I never meant as much to her as she did to me. For context, my maid of honor and I have been best friends for about 15 years. We met when we were kids, and our friendship has been one of those long-term, grow-up-together kinds of relationships. Since we were around 12 years old, we would talk about our future weddings and joke about how we would obviously be each other's maid of honor one day. It was one of those things that always felt like a given. Over the years, it became less of a childish dream and more of an understood promise between us. Even recently, before either of us got engaged, she had said the same thing. We would talk about it casually, but there was always that underlying assumption that when the day came, we'd be standing next to each other at the altar. So when I got engaged, asking her to be my maid of honor felt like a complete no-brainer. The funny part is that we actually got engaged around the same time. She got engaged first, and then a few months later my fiancé proposed to me. It felt like we were going through the same life stage together, which made everything even more exciting. We were constantly talking about wedding ideas, future plans, and what everything might look like. She has been with her fiancé for over a decade. They started dating in high school and have been together ever since. Because of that, I've known both of them for almost the entirety of their relationship, and even before they started dating. I've watched their relationship grow over the years. When he was planning to propose, I was actually involved behind the scenes. I flew into town to help with the engagement plan. I spent the whole day with her to keep her busy and distracted while he got everything ready. I was genuinely excited for them and felt honored that I could be part of such an important moment in their lives. Later in the fall of last year, she mentioned that they were thinking about doing something special for their 10-year anniversary in December. At the time, she said they were considering getting legally married then with a very small ceremony. The idea was that they would do the legal marriage privately on their anniversary but still plan a bigger wedding celebration a few years down the line. When she first mentioned it, I told her that sounded really meaningful and that I'd love to be there if they decided to do it. I specifically told her to let me know what they ended up deciding so I could plan accordingly and make sure I could attend. A little while later, I checked back in with her about it. I asked directly whether they were still planning to get married on their anniversary. She told me no. According to her, they didn't have enough time to plan it properly, and they had decided they would figure something out later instead. I accepted that at face value and didn't question it. At that point, there was no reason for me to think otherwise. Around that same time, she was actively helping me plan my bachelorette party and doing everything you would expect a maid of honor to do. She was excited, supportive, and really involved in the process. It felt like our friendship was exactly the same as it had always been. In January, we even planned a separate trip for just the two of us before my bachelorette party. The idea was that we would spend some extra one-on-one time together before the bigger group trip. I was really looking forward to it because it felt like a chance for us to celebrate this stage of life together. After my bachelorette trip, the focus shifted toward her engagement party. They were planning to have the party in March, which would be about a year after they got engaged. I ended up putting a lot of time and effort into helping with it. I even spent hours making games and planning little details to make the event more fun and personal. Everything seemed normal. Then, around that same period, she randomly told me that she had gotten into a fight with her mom. Apparently, her mom thought she should make her younger sister her maid of honor instead. At the time, I remember feeling confused by that conversation. For years, she had always told me that I would be her maid of honor. It wasn't just something we said when we were kids. It had come up in conversations many times over the years, even recently. So hearing that her mom was pushing for her sister to take that role felt strange. I asked her what she was planning to do about it. I wasn't asking in an accusatory way. I was just curious because it felt like a sudden shift from what she had always told me. Her response was vague. She said she didn't want to talk about it and that she didn't want to upset her mom. At the time, I assumed it was just normal family pressure or drama. Weddings tend to bring out strong opinions from relatives, and I figured she was probably just trying to navigate those expectations without causing conflict. So I didn't push the issue further. What I didn't know at the time was that by the point she told me about that argument with her mom, she had already secretly gotten married. And she had already lied to me about it. To be clear, I completely understand that family plays an important role in weddings. If she had decided she wanted her younger sister to be her maid of honor, I wouldn't have automatically been upset about that. I'm not someone who thinks friendships should override family roles, especially in big life events like a wedding. Her sister obviously matters, and I would never want to take away from that relationship. What made it feel strange to me was the sudden vagueness. For years, literally years, she had always talked about us being each other's maid of honor. It wasn't just something we joked about as kids. Even recently, before we got engaged, she had said it again. It was something that had always been framed as a mutual understanding between us. So when she suddenly started avoiding the topic and saying she didn't want to talk about it because of her mom, it felt odd. At the very least, I expected there might be an honest conversation about it. Maybe she would say she wanted her sister involved too, or that she was thinking about having maids of honor, or maybe doing a maid and matron of honor situation. There were so many ways that conversation could have gone that would have felt transparent and respectful. Instead, she just shut the topic down. At the time, I told myself it was probably just family pressure and that she didn't want to deal with the stress of that conversation yet. Weddings tend to bring out strong opinions from parents, and I figured she was probably trying to navigate it. But then came the moment that honestly blindsided me, and is the entire reason I'm writing this post. In March, she had her engagement party. She and her fiancé had planned it about a year after their engagement, and it was supposed to be a fun celebration with friends and family. I had put a lot of time and effort into helping with it. I had even made games and activities for the party, so it would feel more personal and fun for everyone attending. At one point during the party, she and her fiancé pulled a few of us aside. It was me and two of his friends. The four of us were standing in a little circle together when they suddenly said they had something to tell us. Then they showed us a photo. The picture was of them getting married. That's when they told us that they had actually already gotten married months earlier, back in December, on their 10-year anniversary. Apparently, they had a small ceremony with only their immediate family there, just their parents and siblings. No friends, no extended family, no one else. And they had kept it completely secret. For months. I remember just standing there trying to process what they had said. Because from my perspective, the timeline made it even more confusing and painful. Back in the fall, she had brought up the idea of doing a small ceremony on their anniversary. I had told her to let me know what they decided, so I could plan to be there if it happened. Later, I specifically checked back in with her and directly asked if they were still planning to get married on that date. She told me no. She said they didn't have enough time to plan it and that they would figure something else out later. Then 3 months later, at her engagement party, I find out that not only did it happen exactly when she originally mentioned, but she had been lying to me about it the entire time. And she chose to tell me in a group setting. In that moment, I was completely caught off guard. I didn't want to make a scene or ruin the mood of the party. Everyone was around us, and the last thing I wanted was to turn what was supposed to be a happy event into something awkward or emotional. So I hugged them and said congratulations. But internally, I was honestly in shock. Since then, the more I think about it, the more hurt I feel. It's not just that I wasn't there. That part alone would have stung, but I think I could have eventually understood it if the decision was truly about keeping the ceremony immediate family only. What hurts more is that she lied to me about it for months. During those months, we spent a lot of time together. We went on my bachelorette trip. We had our separate pre-bachelorette trip together. We talked constantly. She had multiple opportunities to tell me the truth. Instead, she kept up the story that it wasn't happening. That's the part one can't wrap my head around. I keep thinking about how I would have handled the situation if the roles were reversed. I truly cannot imagine getting married without her there. And even if for some reason I had chosen to keep the ceremony extremely small, I can't imagine looking her in the eye afterward and lying about it. That's what I'm struggling with the most. If she had told me honestly that she wanted to keep the ceremony limited to immediate family, I probably would have been a little hurt, but I could have respected that choice. It would have made sense. What I can't understand is why she felt the need to lie about it. Why bring it up in the fall, say it might happen, then tell me directly that it wasn't happening when I asked, and then go ahead and do it anyway. And then keep it hidden for months. For what reason? That's the question that keeps running through my mind, and I genuinely don't have an answer for it. The way she told me about the wedding honestly made the whole situation feel even worse. I understand that eventually I need to sit down and have a real conversation with her about all of this. I know that avoiding it won't help anything, and that if our friendship is going to move forward in a healthy way, we need to actually talk about what happened. But the way she chose to tell me still bothers me a lot. She didn't pull me aside privately. She didn't send me a message beforehand. She didn't even warn me that there was something important she needed to tell me. Instead, she brought it up at her engagement party. She and her fiancé pulled me and two of his friends aside and told us all together at the same time. These were two guys I had literally just met that day. We were standing in a small circle when they suddenly said they had something to show us, and then they pulled up the photo of their ceremony and told us they had actually gotten married months earlier. In that moment, I felt completely caught off guard. I didn't really have the space to react honestly. I couldn't ask questions or say how confused and hurt I felt without making things awkward in front of people I didn't even know. It felt like the kind of situation where the only socially acceptable response was to smile, hug them, and say congratulations. So that's exactly what I did. But inside, I was still trying to process what had just happened. Since then, the whole situation has left me questioning where I actually stand in her life. The confusing part is that she has otherwise been a really great maid of honor. She helped plan my bachelorette trip, she's been supportive throughout the wedding planning process, and I do genuinely believe that she cares about me. At the same time, this situation makes it feel like maybe she doesn't care about me in the same way that I care about her. This is someone who knew exactly how much these milestones meant to both of us. We had talked for years about being there for each other's weddings and standing beside each other as maid of honor. She knew how important that idea was to me because it was something we had always shared. And yet, she still chose to go through with her wedding without telling me the truth about it for months. That's what makes the whole thing feel so confusing. Now I feel stuck in a really awkward position. On one hand, demoting her as my maid of honor would probably feel dramatic and uncomfortable. She has already helped plan my bachelorette, and everyone in my bridal party already knows that she's my maid of honor. Changing that now would definitely raise questions and could create tension in the group. On top of that, I don't want to blow up a 15-year friendship over something without at least trying to understand what happened. But on the other hand, I can't ignore how strange and uncomfortable this situation has made me feel. The role of maid of honor is supposed to be for the person who is closest to you, the person who stands beside you on one of the biggest days of your life. And right now I can't shake the feeling that I may have asked someone to fill that role who doesn't actually see me the same way in her own life. At least that's how it feels. It's a really unpleasant feeling to realize that someone you consider your closest friend might not place the same value on the friendship that you do. I want to be clear that I have no intention of ending the friendship over this. I still care about her, and I still want us to be friends moving forward. But it's hard not to feel hurt when something like this happens, especially when it touches on something that had always felt like such a meaningful part of our friendship. Right now I know I need to talk to her about it. This literally just happened, so I haven't had that conversation yet. I'm still processing everything and trying to figure out how to approach it without letting my emotions take over the conversation. But I'll be honest, I'm having a hard time imagining what explanation could possibly make this situation make sense. I keep going back to the same questions in my mind. Why lie about it? Why not just be honest if the plan changed? Why tell me in a group setting where I couldn't even react properly? So, I guess what I'm really wondering is whether my reaction is unreasonable. Am I wrong for feeling this hurt and betrayed by what happened? And am I wrong for questioning whether I still want her standing next to me as my maid of honor after all of this?